We're Hardy and Michael Ford are coming. Ellen Wilkinson, the red flag, she is humming. We get around not as much as Dominic Cummings, even though he's driving blind. We are the Labour grassroots, where like-minded folk dwell. From countryside to city, it's warm and it's witty, the antidote to Pretty Patel. We are the Labour grassroots, time to raise a racket. The future is as bright as Crispin's red jacket. This is the space where we all go hell for leather, free from all the biased BBC blether. Like track and trace, we're better together, just as Carrie and Meg. Yeah, we got all the people from Inverness, Skegness, Barrow, Inverness, Chester, Leicester, Cirencester, Shrewsbury, Oswald Street, Swansea, Bernackley, Barnsley, Beccles, Nottingham and Eccles. We are the Labour grassroots, time to plant some grass, where we've always had social distancing between us and the upper class.
Today's last-minute debate has all the hallmarks of the same opportunism that's done so much damage over the past few days. No doubt with a carefully calculated vote at the end designed for release on social media afterwards. I implore members opposite to park the opportunism. I know the Honourable Member for Stretford and Irvington thinks this is a good crisis which the Labour Party should exploit. And I know she speaks for a lot of her frontbench colleagues when she says that. You just need to see it in the support, U-turn, oppose approach that's characterised their hindsight-heavy behaviour. But, excuse me, did the Honourable Lady just call me scum?
Order, order!
Welcome to Labour Grassroots. We've just heard there that the Tory MP asking if Angela Rayner had called him scum, and it's caused a lot of controversy and has possibly overshadowed the issue of free school meals. But I think it's important that we as Labour members and supporters talk about how we talk of the Tories and how we relate to the Tories. I've got lots of people from all over the country who've come to speak about this with different opinions. I thought that the first person I might ask is John Dunn, who's been on the show quite often and is a member of Bolsover. Is that right, John?
No, I'm exiled in West Yorkshire at the moment. I originate from Clay Cross. I'm now in Brighouse, West Yorkshire.
Oh, in Brighouse.
Crimes I committed in a previous life.
Okay, so what's your view? Do you think that Angela Rayner was wrong to call that Tory MP scum?
I'm going to swear, to be honest. So anybody of a nervous disposition or feeling a bit sensitive, switch your bleeding sound off. Scum don't do these bastards justice. You know, they're a shit stain on humanity. They shouldn't even be allowed to live. Anybody who wants to starve kids as part of a war on working class people, scum just ain't enough for them. And I think that, you know, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. You know, in pit, because we couldn't recognise each other because it was dark and we were black, people would call you bastard. They say, "Hey, up, bastard." But if you say bastard, it means a bit more. So what Angela should have said were, "You fucking scum," not just whispered it politely. You know, this whole idea, I'll be honest, I've never ever believed in nicey politics. It's a class war. And they use everything, you know, they've shot people, they've murdered people, they've starved people, and now they're actually starving kids who've done nothing wrong, innocent children. And to hear that absolute wank stain, Ben Bradley, in Mansfield, say, "Oh, they'll just spend it on drugs and go into brothels." Now, I don't know how many brothels there are in Mansfield. It's a no-go area for me since the strike. But I can assure you, no drug dealer is bleeding interested in food vouchers. I talked to my drug dealer today and asked him, and he says there's no need of food vouchers. He owns a chain of restaurants that he launders his money through. So, Jesus Christ, whether he were talking about specialist knowledge or what, but I think rather than think of insults, and I could write War and Peace of suitable insults for these bastards, but rather than just insult them, we've got to confront them. And I'm not one for taking a plate and leaving it outside a Tory's office. It either wants shoving down his throat, or we should give him wooden windows to not look out of, and things like that. No, I'm mad enough and angry enough about everything anyway.
Well,
this really drove me to the edge. And if a Tory had knocked on my door the day they were saying they're not prepared to give free school meals to innocent kids, then I'd probably be doing time now. But on a positive note, and I'll end on this because I don't want to rant, because I'll start swearing and I'll get carried away.
we haven't got very long, but
and there'll be a restraining order on me. There is such a thing as a good Tory. I have to say that, and I hope you can see this because this is a picture of one.
oh, what?
That's Margaret Thatcher's latest publicity photo. She started this about starving kids. She took school milk off kids. She wouldn't allow striking minors to claim benefits, things like this. This lot of Tories have limited the amount of child benefit you can get, and this, we shouldn't expect any more from this scum of the earth. You know, as I say, there is shit staining on humanity and shouldn't breathe the same air as us. I've told it then, you know, because it's a family show.
Thank you, John. It is a family show. I hope that no children were listening, but I'm sure they weren't anyway. Thanks, John. I'm going to move to Nottingham East and to Louise Regan. Are you there?
I'm here. Hello, Crispin. Very nice to see you again. I haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah, good to see you. Now, I know it's hard to follow John's invective, but what's your view on what Angela Rayner said, and is it wrong to insult Tories and tell them what they are, and is it helpful or?
I don't think it's wrong to insult people. Okay, so what I did, I'm a teacher, so when she said it, I went and looked up what scum meant. So what it says is scum is a low, worthless or evil person, okay? Well, you can't get much lower than voting against children getting food, to be fair. So, I said that I agreed with what she had said. I think people that vote down our children having an ability to get food in the holidays during a pandemic is an absolutely shameful thing. I'm a teacher, as I said. I've been teaching for over 30 years. I've seen the impact of poverty in schools on a daily basis. Over the summer, the government funded free school meals. £125 million was the estimated cost of that over the 6-week period. Assuming a similar cost, it would have cost them £21 million to provide free school meals for this week's half term. I don't think that's a bad cost. This would have fed 2 million children. We're currently paying 4.4 million to subsidise MPs' dinners at the moment. There are 650 MPs, but we pay 4.4 million to subsidise their dinners. And they've also just voted through quite a significant pay rise for themselves, interestingly, and people may have noticed that as well. So I think to sort of challenge that is important. £20 million to feed starving children is 0.17% of the £12 billion spent on a failed test and trace system. I think we have to start calling out the Tories for their failed systems and the amount of money that they're wasting. The other thing that I think it's really important that we all keep talking about is that 72% of children growing up in poverty live in a household where at least one person works. These are not, we're constantly, Ben Bradley was cited earlier, by John. he constantly goes on about these people are benefit scroungers, they're not fit for anything. These are people who are working. They're working hard in precarious jobs, but still can't get above the poverty levels that allows them to feed their children. We've also seen this government remove the 2-child limit. If the government removes the 2-child limit and benefit cap, that would lift hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty. And also increasing child benefit would substantially increase the number of children who are not living in poverty. And I'm going to end with this. And I think this is really important, right? Because people keep going on about poverty as though it's something that, we just all have to put up with. Poverty is not inevitable. Poverty is created. It's created by governments. Governments have created a system where some people have to live in poverty. It's a political choice. This government have created low-paid, precarious work, reduced child benefit and benefits, and left families to suffer. And it's an absolute disgrace. It's an absolute shame on our society. We are a rich society. There is plenty of money out there. It's quite clear. You only have to look to see that. There is money out there to spend if this government wanted to invest in it. And actually, investing in children and families would be a long-term investment. It would pay us huge dividends in the future if we fed our children properly, if we ensured our families were living in proper, safe homes and with warmth and with the things that they needed. So, I wouldn't use the term. I probably wouldn't have used that term, but actually, Angela was right to be disgusted by what those people were saying. It's an absolute and utter disgrace. And I have been protesting outside Tory headquarters with plates to tell them that I'm ashamed of what they have done, and I will continue to do that. And our union, I'm a union activist, and we will continue to put pressure on the government to change the situation. But it is shameful that we are relying on charity to feed our children in this day and age, because that is where we're at. So I think we just have to start exposing the disgrace of the situation we're living in.
Oh, thank you very much, Louise. I'm going to move to Manchester, Gorton, to Julie, who was part of the show we had on Sunday. How are you, Julie?
I'm here. I'm at the moment. I'm in my car, so you just have to bear with me.
You're in your car, okay.
Yeah.
So what did you think about what's been said about using the word scum?
What's just been said, I couldn't repeat anything better. It's almost like what I would have said, exactly what's just been said. I'm also a teacher. I've been a teacher for over 25 years. And what this government has done, to say that benefits will cover it, what universal credit, it's just absolutely disgraceful to even think that people who are got so much money that they can spend. The reason we've got the substantial dinners still available, you can have a drink with, is because that's what the Tories do. They'll have a 5-course meal with a bottle of Dom Perignon, and they can keep that going all night. The majority of us, the majority of the people I know in my ward can't afford to have a meal out, never mind even a piece of pizza or a tray of chips. The people that I'm taking food parcels to and meals every week are struggling just to get meals on the table for the children. So to think that not giving them food over the school holidays and saying that can be paid for by the benefit system is just beyond belief. When you cut it down to universal credit, paid monthly, purposely, given to them 4 or 5 weeks, not sent to the landlord so they can blame them for not paying the rent, for being feckless, been done absolutely on purpose. And then people get evicted and living in flea-ridden bed and breakfast, and relying on charity. It's an absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace. So
we just wanted to, because there's quite a few people. I'm a bit worried about you driving as well, I have to say. But what do you think about the backlash about Angela Rayner saying that?
I think Angela needs to be careful. She's on the front bench. So she, you know, she needs to be really careful about there is a parliamentary language within the House of Commons that people need to stick to. As much as you emotionally might want to jump and throttle them, grab them by the throat. And I know many people have told me the way that they've been treated by the Tories. And Lisa Nandy once told me the first time she went into Parliament and was told, basically, let's have a look at your knickers by a Tory MP, which is a disgraceful, disgusting thing to say, and refused to actually let her sit down. So I know that they are despicable people, but what you've got to do is hold that emotion in, because what they want is exactly that. What they want is for you to react in that way. And sometimes you just have to keep your dignity and fight them with politics. That's what you have to fight them with. That for me, you know, if you rely on coming out with that from the front bench, then you've basically given them what they were looking for, which
Right.
is the basics. Yes. So that's my view. Hold it in, save it for campaigning, and beat them at their own game. Because believe me, next election we're going to take them out. Johnson won't be there for much longer anyway. I don't believe.
All right. Well, look, thank you for joining us in your car, and I hope you have a good journey.
Right, I'm nearly there now anyway. So.
All right. Cheers.
So
Cheers, Julie.
Yeah. All right. See you soon. Bye bye.
I'm moving to Beaconsfield, where I think Benjamin Disraeli was MP. So, what's your view on this, David?
Yeah, so I actually feel that Angela Rayner's response was totally appropriate in the circumstances. I don't think, though, that all Conservatives universally deserve that label. I mean, I agree totally with the views being put forward about Ben Bradley. I just find him utterly repulsive. And I think that actually using that label or a milder jibe against those people is just never going to elicit the sort of emotion that's required to actually get people to actually react properly. But not all Conservatives are actually that evil. I mean, if you actually look at Beaconsfield, our MP actually didn't vote. She wasn't there for that vote. But I write emails almost weekly asking Joy Morrissey about how she votes, and her problem is she's just not a lightweight. I mean, she really, I mean, I just refer to her as an airhead. She's not evil, she's just dumb. You know, and the guy we had before, Dominic Grieve, he was just a character whose worldview was very limited by his upbringing. So these people are not that evil. So I don't call them scum. And I also would like to make the point that I don't just reserve calling Conservatives scum. I've also used very similar language to that when talking about people like Gavin Shuker and Ian Austin. I actually argue the case for democratic socialism most of my life, and I do use language like that, and I am very emotive about it because I do take this very seriously. I'm very passionate about it. And I do feel that Angela was right, because I do think we have to show that we really care. I think this is why at the present moment, Keir Starmer is doing such a lousy job, because he's treating it not like politics. It's not coming from the heart. He's treating it like it's a court of law, and it's just a clever argument. And politics isn't won by clever arguments. It's won by people actually feeling emotional about it. It's an emotional response. So I think that what she did could be commended. I totally agree with how she's put it.
Well, thank you very much for that. And I'm going to move to Bristol, to Kate. Are you there, Kate?
I am. Hello.
What I found interesting is this idea that there's this anger that we have. I mean, some of the stuff those Tories were coming out with in the light of that vote on free school meals. I mean, I'll just quote this other one here. Tory MP for North Devon, Selene Saxby, ignited anger after commenting on local businesses giving free food away to those in need She said, I am delighted our local businesses have bounced back so much after lockdown. They're able to give away food for free and very much hope they will not be seeking any further government support. It just seems to me that they're inflaming the situation themselves. And, you know, we're going to get angry, aren't we? So, you know, if we're being tricked into not becoming angry, what can we do? What do you think?
Well, I think for the last 40 years, the right-wing media, the mainstream media, has been creating this narrative in the country that poor people are scum, that we are lower than the low, that we deserve everything that we've got. They've used this to justify destroying industry, to ruin the coal mining industry, the steel industry in Wales, and to replace it with nothing but jobs like supermarket jobs, call centre jobs. And they've created this narrative where we're a group of people that don't deserve anything better. We're responsible for our own problems. And that, I understand the anger. I understand where it comes from and why Angela Rayner would feel that she felt that she had to say, you know, call him a scum. But I don't think you win the argument that way, because they want us to behave like that. We justify, you know, they look at us like idiots. They look at the people in the north that voted for them and they think they're idiots. I'm not going to call any of my friends up in the north who may have fallen for all that media. I'm not going to call them scum. I'm not going to look at them that way. I always go back to the way Mo Molan behaved when she was negotiating the Good Friday Agreement. You can't sit in a room with people who've done the things that some of those people had done and always feel comfortable and always feel okay and be all right with what they've done. But you don't get anywhere by talking down to people, by being aggressive and being hostile. The only way you ever get anybody to listen to you is by talking and talking and talking and treating people with respect. So I understand why she used the word scum. And personally, that's how I feel, but I just don't think it achieves anything in the long term. And we should be in it for the long term, because Labour can only win in the long term. The Tories always win in the short term. We need to win the long term battle.
Well, thank you, Kate. And I'm moving to North Dorset to Kevin. Are you there, Kevin?
Yep, I'm here. Thank you, Crispin. Can I just start by saying you do a brilliant job. Twice, give up all these hours twice a week and presumably all the days in between, and it is so much appreciated.
Thank you.
I have quite a lot of friends and some family who vote Tory. I have to accept that. I try to educate them, and they're certainly no longer discarding out of hand the views of the left. They still, most of them, cling to what they regard as the safety of their prejudices. And I wouldn't dream of calling them scum. Parliament, however, is a different matter. Here, Tory MPs revel in the boorish, misogynist behaviour of public schoolboys. So after the appalling Tory comments and vote against help for the poorest children in this country, I was thrilled to hear Angela Rayner use the word scum. She didn't use it loud enough to describe them. At last, we had a bit of passion from the Labour front bench, something that conspicuously missing from most of the front bench. Passion convinces, and we haven't seen enough of it since the loss of Dennis Skinner. Angela Rayner cares. Her background informs her position. What do the Tories know of that? Nothing. For her to be knocked down for caring is just not on. The Tories divert attention away from the main point, but look how it has lifted us on the right with righteous anger. I'd just like to conclude in the words of somebody in yesterday's Morning Star. If you don't want to be called scum, don't act like scum.
Oh, that's a good point. Thank you very much, Kevin. I just thought at this point I'll show another result from the survey that was quite interesting, which is that as Kevin was talking about having family members, it seems that over 50% of Labour members have a family member who is a Tory. So it must be quite difficult if a lot of us think they're scum. It must be quite difficult at Christmas. I thought I'd move on to Duncan in Southampton, who formerly was a Conservative. I think this is an interesting perspective. Duncan.
Yeah, obviously quite a long time ago though, so I have to at least confess it was it's now 25 years ago, so I have reformed. But yeah, when I was younger, particularly my grandparents were very conservative, and I was active in the Young Conservatives as a teenager, and also as a Conservative student at university. But then when I left university, I went to Northern Ireland, and I didn't stay with the Conservatives. I was already getting quite fed up with them at that point and switched to the Old Students Party. So I was actually part of the UUP in Northern Ireland. And the mention of Mo Mowlam, I dealt with Mo because I was part of the negotiations at the for the Good Friday Agreement. I was a special assistant to David Trimble when he was leader of the Old Students Party. And then after that, I ended up going to America and got involved with the Democrats. So I moved progressively more left with that and was on the left of the Democrats. Then when I came back to the UK again about 12 years ago, I got involved with Labour, and then I joined Labour in 2012. So it's 8 years now I've been a member of the Labour Party. So it's sort of a transition, a journey, really. So I can understand why people have the anger, and I share the anger because my views have changed a lot since I was younger. So, you know, I can see why people feel that anger, and I feel it myself. But at the same time, it's sort of difficult to see calling like members of your family who still would vote Conservative scum. I wouldn't go that far. I think the Conservative MPs, they are scum. And I know some of them because I was at university with some of them. And yeah, I think they're scum. But members, ordinary members and just ordinary voters who vote Conservative, I think they're just foolish, and they're conned really by the mainstream media and by a lot of other things, and they have a particular perception of the world that leads to that. So they're in error rather than I would say they were bad people. I think they mean well, but they're just making bad choices. But the Tory MPs, you know, they know what they're doing, and most of them, apart from the really dense ones, yeah, they're scum.
Well, I mean, that does resonate with what lots of people said in the survey, that there was a distinction between MPs and voters. So, for example, the people who may have voted Conservative over Brexit are not really in the same league as those who are, you know, MPs who you know, like that guy who seemed to be enjoying winding up the front bench to the point that Angela Rayner lost her temper. I think that's a good point to make. Thank you, Duncan. I'm going to move on to Esther in Bristol. We're going back to Bristol.
Yeah,
Esther?
Bristol rocks. Hello.
So what your view is? It's not particularly helpful to be using words like scum.
No, so calling people names, it dehumanises people. What we need to do is to engage. We need to win the argument. So we live in a democracy, and that's what we need to do. We need to convince people that what we're saying is what is really.
Your sound's quite low, Esther.
Do I need to shout louder?
Probably, yeah.
So we live in a democracy, and we need to convince people that what we are saying is something that needs to be achieved. So we need to engage people, and we need to show people that austerity, that poverty are not necessary, that they're wrong, and we need to win the argument. And calling people names does not win the argument. And furthermore, we're socialists, so everyone is equal. We're all human beings. We should not be dehumanising people either. So, and the first thing I would say then is that we need to respect people as equals. We need to engage with them. We need to win the arguments, and that way we will win the election and win power and improve our society.
Well, thank you very much for that very short comment, and I think we've got someone who's in agreement with you. It's Chris in Erith and Thamesmead. Chris, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'd just like to echo what people have said, that the ordinary person who votes Conservative shouldn't be labelled as vermin or scum. The late mother-in-law was a very righteous person who would oppose injustice, and I don't think she would. You can't call that people like her those titles. A bloke I worked with, he just saw the world from a totally different view as an individual and unique person. And we had a good discussion, and he liked what he appreciated my view as I listened to his view. He's not scum or vermin, but we can sympathise with the emotion that has called these people that, because they don't go much better. But I would also like to point out that this downward spiral has led to this situation where children are going hungry, and the parents too. That is not just the Tories, it is the neoliberals that have tripped us up in the last two elections that are guilty as just as much as these Tories, because right now Corbyn could have had enough go in the last couple of years to have started to get the ball rolling and reverse all this austerity and the nasty Tory policies. And, they could be giving keys out to 2 or 3 bedroom council houses at low rent so that people can afford to feed themselves. But these people in our party must bear that responsibility, the same as those Conservatives that have took the bread from these children's mouths. I sent an email to Boris saying, you feed the greed of PFI and privatisations, but you can't feed the powerless children. That's all I've got to say. So God bless you all, and have fun tonight. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you. And we're going up to Liverpool to Wavertree to speak to Graham.
Hi there. For us to achieve any change, we've got to win the next election. And in the last election, almost a year ago, the Conservatives got 14 million votes and we got just over 10 million. If we're going to win the next election, a good 2 or 3 million people who voted Tory last time have got to come and vote Labour with us this time. And insulting the leadership, insulting how people vote, probably isn't the best way of winning friends. We've probably got to do a lot of listening, get our anger over, but find out what it is that makes people resonate and think, and try perhaps using different language.
Right, now, I've got a leaflet that you sent me.
Sure. Right, and I'll come straight on to that. Okay. I fought in a couple of campaigns, well, I fought in quite a lot of campaigns. I'm parliamentary agent and have been for the past 3 electionship. But in my early days, first time I stood as a candidate, night before the election, the local Tory councillor put out an absolutely abusive thing, which probably beat the scum by some way by ending up that needed a hole in the head. The result of that abuse was that lots of people who pretty certainly voted Tory normally, but actually knew me, went out and made it damn clear that they weren't having any of that, and the Labour vote jumped. A few years later, different ward, there are different ways. Reaching out, actually got not quite sure how I managed this, but actually got the former chair of the Conservative Party to switch sides. Now, I'm pretty certain if we were arguing the case for socialism, arguing against what the time the Thatcher government was doing, but it was being done in a way which tried to speak in the local language so that people understood. And if we'd been using language like scum, I don't think the former chair of the Tory party would have completely switched sides and endorsed the Labour candidate. So I'm arguing strongly, bottle a lot of our anger or focus it, use words that aren't absolute straight insults, use words that might stick. Meal stealer sticks, factual manipulator sticks, misogynist can stick if you can do it, but a straight rude words might make some of our base feel good, but it turns people away. And what we've got to concentrate on over the slog of the next 4 years is finding ways to turn people to us. And I think this was a mistake. Totally understand why, but we've got to bottle our anger and focus it into being constructive. That's just where I am.
Oh, thank you for that, Graham. And I'm going to go back down to Dover and Deal now. Miriam, are you there, Miriam?
Yeah. Hello.
So what's your view in Dover and Deal? Is that there are a lot of Tories there? I suppose you have to deal with them.
Yes. Well, we've sadly we were once a marginal seat, and we've had Labour MPs, but not much chance at the moment with the Elphics, who have hit the public, the national media quite powerfully. My feeling about Scum, I mean, actually, I agree with nearly everything that has been said. I do think that it's probably a bad idea to use a term like that, where it can be twisted and it can take over the narrative that's being, portrayed by the media and so on. But I completely understand why Angela Rayner said it. I mean, I think, when you're angry, you swear. I swear when I'm angry, that's for sure. And I don't blame her. It's probably counterproductive, but it's a way of, I think she probably did say it in anger rather than, as some of these Tories do, to get a rise or something like that. But what troubles me is that this moves us away from what the narrative that we want, which is the factual stuff about how these kids are not getting fed properly, and we're being told by the Tories that that there's money there for them. I mean, Kent County Council apparently is running out of money to the point where centres for disabled people, day centres, are not being reopened. So there is so little money that KCC, which has actually decided to provide some money for kids over this half term, they're cutting back on other really essential services. So, this is the story that really we need to be focusing on, and which the Tories have, in a way, a little bit managed to silence by all this business about Scum. So that's the main thing that I would say. I think, I do understand why she said it. I'd say it myself. I don't think it's a good idea to talk about voters like that. And I do see that on social media a bit. So I think that's that's counterproductive, personally.
Oh, thank you for contributing. Andy in Sevenoaks.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Wow, I don't know how to follow that, really. There's so much knowledge and experience in politics. I'm 52. I've come to politics really, really late. 18 years as a train driver, and really moved and motivated by Jeremy Corbyn right at the beginning. Encouraged me to join the Labour Party and certainly get very active within the trade union at ASLEF. So to follow, John Dunn's passion. I sort of watched strikes and stuff in the 80s on TV, and it's sort of like, wow, that's over there, and it didn't really impact me too much. But now I see the injustices that have been done, Orgreave and such like, Hillsborough, which we've seen in more recent times. I fully support previous speakers, Kate McEwen and Esther and Duncan and Graham and Miriam. We need to have a nice, more kinder way of dealing with it. But I totally get Angela's passion, having met her once before. There is an enormous amount of passion there. Unfortunately, or fortunately for me, I've had a nice upbringing, done very well, and I've not been subject to the poverty and stuff like that. So my heart goes out to the people who are suffering and are not being fed for this week of half term, which is really, really bad. But I don't think it was helpful to call in parliamentary language to call an MP scum. We need to rise above it, and I think Jeremy said right at the beginning, one of his speeches at the beginning, we need to do politics better. We need to be kinder. We need to demonstrate that we are human beings, just like the Tories. They have got a different way of doing things, and we need to call them out when they're wrong, and when they're not doing it right, and when they're not being fair, and when they are being downright nasty. We need to call them out, and we need to publicise that. We haven't got the MSM, the mainstream media, behind us. They seem to pick and choose the fights they want to pick and support. And yeah, they just divert. I've got lots of family who Daily Mail readers, and you just hear it coming straight out of the Daily Mail, what they're saying. And these are parents with kids, and I'm like, well, you really don't know. You don't know what's going on. So we just need to be nice to each other, I feel. I certainly get on well with all my Conservative members of family. I'm quite the red sheep of the family, and I'm proud to be. So I'll continue to speak out where I feel it's right and just to do so. But I can't really follow the experience and knowledge of previous speakers, and I'm sure speakers after, because I'm very new to politics, but I'm very much enjoying it. So thank you, Crispin. I appreciate what you're doing, and everybody else, thank you. You take care.
Thank you, Andy. I'll tell you who I'd like to speak to. She missed last week because she was doing some local thing, but she's here online again. Very in Southport.
Yeah.
Are you good at persuading Tories to vote Labour?
Yeah, I'm actually not bad, but I think one of the reasons is Southport is quite a peculiar place. We've never had a Labour MP. We've come close, but we never had Labour councillors up until 2 years ago, and now we've got 5 of us. So it's changing, and I think a lot of the sort of younger or more middle-aged people that are in Southport have changed. They've seen that the Tory, I mean, our MP's a plank, he's an absolute plank. He's not very good, and he's a Tory. But I'm always very nice to him face to face. But we've always had Lib Dems before that, and they're just very ineffective. So yes, I have changed people's minds and got them to and I think some of it is because of they can see what we're actually doing, that we're actually making a difference as Labour councillors. We are making a difference to the town, and people see that and they appreciate it.
Right.
Can I say something about the Scum thing?
Yeah.
Because I think it just sort of slipped out her mouth. I think probably if she'd been thinking, it probably wouldn't. Because she's very controlled as Angela, she's very good. But I think it probably just slipped out her mouth. But I think they're very hypocritical, because if you used to hear before we had social distancing, Prime Minister's questions and the things that they used to shout at Jeremy Corbyn, they're just horrible. And I differentiate between MPs and ordinary voters, because I think with the media that we've got and with the way things are in this country, but the Tory MPs, every single one of them, they just lie. And it's blatant. I mean, Boris has been doing the rounds about the £63 million that he gave to the councils, and it was to pay for the school meals and all the rest of it. Well, in Sefton, we got £363,351 14 and we got that in June, and it was meant to last us for 12 weeks, and it's gone now. So it's a lie, but people believe it. And we have to stand up and say, no, this is a lie. And that's how you get people on side. You tell them the truth. And all I do when I go to the door and we're talking to them and they come out with something, and I just say to them, but that's not true. That's not true. And then tell them what the truth is. And you get into a conversation with people. I remember being in Weybridge, which is in Surrey, and it's Tory country. In the summer, I was down there and during lockdown. And when we opened up, I took my kids, my grandchildren to the swing park there. And I was talking to this woman and she heard my accent and she asked me if I was down on holiday. And I said, no, I'm live up north. And she said, when are you going home? And I says, well, I'm going back in September because I'm a Labour councillor and we're starting up the council meetings again. And she said to me, are you a socialist? I said, it was, oh. And I said to her, well, what does socialism mean to you? I says, because I was brought up to believe that them that had looked after them that didn't have. I says, and that's all it's about. That's what socialism is. We look after the people that need somebody to look after them, because not all of us are able to do all the things or have great jobs or all the rest of it. And I told her a little bit about some of the people in my ward in Southport, which is one of the most deprived areas in all of Sefton. And by the end of it, she says to me, you know, you're right. And I says, I know I am. And so, yes, I am a socialist. So you can't change people. You just have to be nice to them and talk to them as if they want to hear.
Yeah. So you think? I mean, I'm going to end the discussion about this now. But I just think, do you think it's a trick that the Tories do is to wind us up to say something, yeah. And if we can just steer clear of that and.
Yeah, I think the vast majority of Tories nowadays, this lot that have come in since 2010 and maybe a wee bit before, they're very lacking in brain cells and functioning brain cells, and they've all had a compassion bypass. You know, so they probably don't understand. I've never understood why Priti Patel, who came over, when our parents came over, when Uganda, you know, as a Ugandan Asian, and she was taken into this country, the whole family and accepted, why she's so anti-immigration. You know, they just don't have they just have had compassion bypasses. Some of them are not very nice people, and it's okay to say that.
That's probably, it wouldn't have been as dramatic a show if it had been, is it okay to say that Tories are not very nice people? I don't think it would have had the same effect.
But some of them are not very nice people.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
you know, I think a lot of people have spoken about kindness, and I think we have to bring kindness there, you know, because it's the most important thing. My granddaughters are asked frequently, what's the most important thing you can be? And they look at their mum and they say, to be kind, mummy. And that's it, because that's what I taught her.
Right. That's a good point. We have to be as we should be and not worry about what they're like.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much, Very. You'll be back next week, won't you?
I will.
Right,
I will.
Good. Right, good. Now we've worked out their trick about trying to make us angry and not be nice to each other. We've worked that one out, so now we can have a bit of light relief. Susie, are you there?
Hello. Hi.
Oh, what are you doing?
I've got to keep my voice down because I'm hiding out. After the other day, Andy Burnham followed me on Twitter. So I took it as a sign, and I'm just in his garden. So keep the noise down. I'm just having a look. I'm just watching him. He seems to be I think he's having a dinner party. Let me just hang on. Where is he? He's in there. Look. He's left his door open. Can you see him? He's in there.
Is that Andy Burnham?
Yeah. He's shh. Keep your voice down, Crispin. He's not supposed to know I'm here. There he is. Anyway, I'm in the garden. I'm just going to stay here. I'll probably send him a little tweet and see if he's going to come out and see me. But I hope you're having a nice evening. Sorry. Hang on. Shh. Oh, sorry, hang on. I've got. Shh.
Hey, get the dogs. Get the dogs.
Oh no.
And we're going to speak to Rob.
Hello. Evening, Crispin. Evening, all.
Yeah, so we had a good. I think it was quite good. I really liked John's start to the show. I thought it was it really got it going with a bang.
Yeah.
John's start to the show,
Yeah.
and then it kind of fizzled into niceness. We all became really nice as it went on. It's like I don't know. Maybe it should have gone the other way. Maybe we should have had the nice stuff first and ended up with John. I don't know. But I'd like to imagine putting it out as a clip from the start. From the start, anyone watching it is going to think this is like an hour of Tory bashing, but no, it wasn't like that. I think in a way, I think that the Tories are actually just trying to wind up Labour, and it's getting a little bit. There's a lot more sort of animosity is coming out with COVID. I think over the winter it's going to get even worse. I think people are going to start being a bit less cozy, apart from maybe Keir Starmer. He'll probably still be saying everything's quite nice between them, but I think everyone else is losing their mind. So yeah. So have you written a song about this, or?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I think it's called "I Remember Friday." It's just something. It's something I think about, how abusive I feel comfortable being about Tories in what I write. I have a song called "We Hate the Tories," which, when I wrote it, no one was singing songs like "We Hate the Tories," and I'd play it, and there used to be someone at the back of the room who just burst into life and go, "That's my song." I've become less comfortable with it over the years because, in a way, I agree. It's kind of contextual, isn't it? And after a while, just being angry, it's not necessarily as productive as you think it is. I mean, that punk thing, Johnny Rotten, anger is an energy. Well, yeah, and then you end up just selling butter and supporting Trump. So you have to be careful, I think, about how angry you are. Although sometimes you do need to say, "I hate Tories," and sometimes, as the song is about, it's a bit autobiographical. But sometimes you just can't help but go scum in certain circumstances. And you can't help but cheer in certain circumstances.
Okay. Well, I'll play. I'm interested to hear the song.
I remember it was Friday, lunchtime down the pub, and me and Maureen Patton Palmgit queued up at the bar when the radio said the IRA bombed the Tory party conference. 2 things happened. The pub went silent, and I cheered. And I never got served at the bar anymore. And Palmgit laughed, well, they never served me anyway. Palmgit laughed, they never served me anyway. Then it was a Monday, we finally heard the news. Maggie was finally out, dead at the Ritz. Hip leftists said, how can you rejoice when a human being's dead? They weren't there when she let 10 hunger strikers die, when Brixton, Toxteth and Broadwater Farm burned, when she gave the orders to sink the Belgrano, to break the miners, the enemy within. When we had our phones tapped, when we lost our jobs, when we could remember our streets without the homeless, before greed was good and society was bad. Before greed was good and society was bad. Now her well-fed bastards smirk and jeer. Free school meals only fund crack dens. Really? You think that that's acceptable? Really? You think that's funny? And you get so upset whenever we get angry. Ooh, class hatred, ooh, class envy. It's not who you are, it's the damage that you choose to do that we hate. No, it's not what you are, it's the damage that you choose to do that we hate. And the list goes on. Universal credit, bedroom tax, toxic British values, benefit cuts, 0-hour contracts, privatisation, legalised theft, monetarisation from the cradle to the grave. Monetarisation from the cradle to the grave. And if you can't make a profit out of us, we can fuck off and die. But this is my mother, this is my sister, this is my father, this is my brother, this is my beloved, this is my child. And you're never there when the damage that you do gets done. You're never there when the damage that you do gets done. This is my mother, this is my sister, this is my father, this is my brother, this is my beloved, this is my child. This is my mother, this is my sister, this is my father, this is my brother, this is my beloved, this is my child.